Yo, what is up guys? I'm back on the mic today from Spectral Sound, and today I'm going to show you how I recreated the main future bass chord stack that was used in the song Preoccupied by Fluencie. This is what the original sounds like. And this is my recreation. Alright, now before I get into this video, I just want to say that I know there are people in the comments, I know you guys, that are going to be like, "This sound is so simple. Why are you doing a tutorial?" Yes, I know the sound is simple. Normally I would not do such a simplistic style for these kind of tutorials. However, when I do tutorials such as this that are very simplistic, it's because they're requested. Like, this sound was requested a long time ago, still working through that request list, and I didn't want to let them down because it was a very simple sound to make. Just wanted to show you how I went about making these, the really juicy future bass chords, because it's not always simple as just like layering saw waves together with a low pass filter. Like, there's other stuff involved in that, and that's what I'm going to get to in this tutorial. So this sound is completely in Serum, there's no post-processing, and even though this patch isn't quite as simple as you would expect, it is still basically those future bass chords, so the concept is very basic. The concept is taking detuned saw waves and modulating it with a low-pass filter. However, there are some specific things that I want to go over about layering the saw waves, exactly why I did what I did, and also some extra stuff I'm doing with the filter to achieve that kind of slowing down motion in the sound, other than just the speed. I doubt that made sense, but you'll understand once the tutorial begins. So first off, we're just going to be using saw waves for all these filters right here, because they have, the purest sound. They have all the frequencies. So on oscillator A, we're going to set the detune up to 15. And what we're going to do, we're going to bring the detune down very low at 0.04. So just a tight little detune, and the blend at 47%. So you can see that the detune frequencies there, it won't let me keep that on there, but you can see the detune frequencies they're very low and they're very tight. Whereas the main, frequency, the main voice is going right up the center. So we're getting most of the original sound, but we're getting a little bit of the detune, and this is what you hear. So next we're going to throw on oscillator B. The octave for this one, we're going to bring down 1, so this is going to be a little bit of a lower pitch. We're only going to set this unison to 3 voices. We don't want it quite as many as the first one. So we have that on 3. We're going to bring the detune up a little bit more to 0.11, and the blend we're going to bring up to 49%, so around the same. And now I want to point out something in particular that I'm doing here that I don't usually do. Now, I didn't want to use vibrato for this because vibrato can be kind of harsh. What I wanted to do was I wanted it to do a little bit of a pitch vibrating motion without using vibrato, because vibrato can get really harsh. What I wanted to do is I wanted to modulate this phase here, and you can tell when you're moving the phase of something. Here, let me just like play a note. You can tell it's moving in pitch, and that's because we're starting, each time it like restarts, it's starting at a different point, and when you're moving it while the sound is already playing, that can either speed up or slow down the waveform, obviously changing its pitch. There is a certain term for that. I forget what it's called. There's just something where a car is passing. Tell me what that is in the comments, because I know there's a name for it. I just can't think of it right now. When a car is passing, it'll sound like, when it's not coming near you, it'll sound like it's speeding up because its phase is getting closer, its source is getting closer and closer. And when it's like going by, when it's going past, when it's leaving, it'll sound like it's going down in pitch because the phase is getting moved the opposite direction. I don't remember the name, but there's a name for that. Anyway, I'm using that in this specific patch right here to add a little bit of vibrato. You just modulate the phase up -50. If you want to know how to get, that double-sided kind of curve, I believe it's Shift-Alt. Yeah, it's Shift-Alt. So if you hold Shift-Alt and click, then you can get a bipolar, basically, format of this LFO. You can also go do that in the Matrix by toggling these arrows right there. This is unipolar, that's bipolar, it's the same basic thing. But yeah, that's what I'm doing here. It's on 1/16, it's on off, so it's just a nice fast motion for the vibrato. We're just getting a little extra modulation there, a little extra flair. Now we're gonna flip on the sub oscillator. We're not using the sub oscillator as a conventional sub, we're just using it as another layer for the saw waves. So flip on saw wave right here and put this up 1 octave. You can also bring the level down 25, not quite as loud as the other ones because the other ones were 75%. This is just going to be a nice clean layer. This is just a clean saw layer that's layering above everything else. So it gets a really nice, thick, and juicy chord stack. All right, sounds very nice, but it's not future bass chords yet. We need some wubbing action. Let's flip on the filter. We have a low pass, high pass filter. That's the LH12 in the multi-tab. And normally you could just use a low pass for this. However, with this particular sound, it required me to use a high pass. So we want oscillator A, B, and the sub oscillator to go through this filter because the sub is just the layer. Again, normally I wouldn't route the sub through the filter because I'm using it as a normal sub bass, but I'm not in this patch. I have the cutoff at 8 Hertz, which is all the way down, and it's modulating up 100% with LFO1 right here. Now LFO1 is doing this little wonky shape. You know, normally I was just messing around with different curves and shapes to see what I could get like the best, LFO pattern for the main wubbing of the sound. But this just turned out to be the most accurate to the original. And, you could just use whatever you want. If you want to use triangle waves or sine waves or however it works for you. This is just what I chose, this little fancy shape right here. It's on trigger mode, and I have BPM turned off. And that's because you can hear it speeding up and slowing down as it goes on, which I'm modulating that with LFO2. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, the cutoff is modulating all the way up with LFO1. The resonance is modulating up 10%. Now I'm going to cover that kind of downfalling of the LFO. So what I did here in LFO2, I have it set to a bar and trigger mode. I suppose you click envelope mode or just whatever just re-triggers it. And then you want to create this little shape right here. It's just a little downfalling shape. Now the first thing you're going to do is going to add it to the frequency right here from all the way down to all the way up. This is the frequency of the high pass. It's going to create, obviously, that high passed feel. What we're also going to do in the matrix is select LFO2 for our source, go into destination, go into LFOs, click LFO1 rate. And now we're going to bring that up 27. So 27 and unipolar should be exactly right. I have the rate here on LFO1 at 2.7 Hertz. So it's going to be go up really fast when the modulation is right here. And it's going to slide down and slowly get slower and end up around 2.7 Hertz. So this is what it'll sound like. All right, and that I had to mess around with the knobs there for a little bit. So, this preset is going to be in the description if you want to download that. So you don't have to get it exactly right if you don't want to. You can just download the preset and follow along. That'd be a very nice way to go about these tutorials. I'd suggest doing that. So now we got our main sound. It's time to spice it up with a little bit of effects. We have some hyperdimension. The mix is at 25%. And I didn't do anything with the actual dimension. I just wanted a little bit of that hyperdimension feel. Like you can hear something that has a lot of hyperdimension on it, and you can tell that it's hyperdimension that's used. So I just wanted a little bit of that. Next, let's throw on an EQ. I have this side at a high pass EQ. The frequency is at 430 Hertz, and the Q factor is at 32%. It is modulating up with LFO1 12. So just a little bit of peakage there as the modulation goes on. And that just adds just a little more low end when it gets to its full frequency range, just thickens it up just a little bit. We're gonna do more of that with multiband compression, but for right now, that works pretty well. That's all we're doing with the EQ. Time to get on to the multiband compression. So flip on multiband, bring the threshold to -15, and everything else should stay exactly the same. That's all we have to do for that, and now this is what it does to the sound. We get a lot more power out of the sound and more richness overall in the tone. So finally, all we have to do is throw on some reverb. All right, so I left the size where it was and I left the decay where it was. I only messed with these knobs. So I brought the low cut up to 50% to get rid of all those low frequencies that when they get whipped around pretty fast, the reverb gets kind of messy. So I just wanted to cut those out of there. Also the high cut, I brought to 50%. So we don't have all those really harsh high frequencies, just most of the mid range. And for the spin, I brought that to 10%. And the spin depth I brought to 50%. I was just messing around with, those two knobs to try to see what I could get the best tone out of with the reverb. Because what I like to do is I like to turn the mix all the way up and listen to just the reverb and mess with those to see what gets the best results. And then I can just mix that in a little bit. So that's a very efficient way to do your reverb. What I did here, I have the mix at 19%. And it's actually going down -13 with LFO2. Because when it's doing its really fast whipping action at the very top of the LFO, that part right there, I didn't want there to be much reverb at all. I just wanted the reverb to come in as, the modulation slows down. So that's all that's doing right there. Now I know someone is going to want the MIDI. They're going to ask for the MIDI. This is it right here. It's just a simple triad, F sharp, A, and C sharp. So if you had a particular reason for wanting the MIDI, there it is. Alright, so that wraps up this tutorial. There will be a link in the description where you can download this patch and mess around with it yourself. Be sure to leave a like, tell me what you thought about the sound in the comments below. Also be sure to subscribe because I got some awesome Serum tutorials coming out like on a weekly, oh, no, I'm becoming RPS. Just hit that subscribe button for some more awesome videos on a weekly basis and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.